Okay, so here we have a target, finding percentages of quantities. Quantities in this case is just going to mean a number. Quantity is just an amount of something. For example, we're going to start with some common percentages. You might see this at H&M or the market, a sale on something. You might have 10% off of something. Let's start with that. 10% of 200. Say something costs 200 pounds. And there was 10% off, and you wanted to try to figure that out before you went up and paid for your item. Well, there's a little bit of mental math we could do with these common percentages. So we know that 10% as a fraction is 1/10. If you have 10% of something, you have 1/10 of something. It's the same thing. We also know that the word of is going to mean multiply. So it's like we're multiplying 1/10 times 200. 200 is a whole number. We could put any whole number over top of 1 to make the multiplication of fractions easier. Now we multiply numerator times numerator, you get 200. And then 10 times 1 is just 10. So really, the shortcut of what we're doing here is 200 divided by 10. And that would equate to 20. So 10% of 200 is 20. If we want to skip right to here, if you can do some mental math and know that 10% is 1/10, 1/10 is like dividing by 10. Since the numerator is 1, it's not going to change anything when you multiply the 200 by 1. So really the shortcut is to find 10% of something, just divide it by 10. You kind of maybe have to memorize that if you're not able to do the mental math, and that's okay. Let's try a little trick with 20%. It helps to know that 20% is the same thing as 1/5. If you weren't sure of that, you can go back to an old lesson. We took 20% over 100. Okay, percent is always out of 100, but then we're going to simplify that fraction. It simplifies to 1/5. 1/5 is the same as dividing by 5, similar to what we did with 1/10, but now it's 1/5. We divide by 5, and we would get 40. For this dividing part, if you want to set it up as long division, 200 divided by 5, that would be fine. Whatever it takes for you to get the right answer. Okay, let's try another one. 25%. This is another common percentage. Okay, 25% you might know is the same as 1/4. And if you're noticing the pattern here, now we're going to divide by 4. We're dividing by this denominator. Since the numerator is 1, we're able to do that. And 25% of 200 is going to be 50, because 4 50s is what makes 200. So it would be 50 pounds off. So you do have to do some subtraction there at the end if you're doing some shopping. You have an item for 200 pounds, say it's a pair of jeans, and it's 25% off. You want to know if you have enough money, then you subtract 50 and you get 150 to get the total sale amount. 33%, it's actually 33.3, but we round it down. That's the same as 1/3 of something. This is a little trickier. 1/3. Here we're going to divide by 3, and this is also a little bit trickier because you're not going to get a whole number. You're going to get 66.6. So your discount, 66.6. 50%, that's the same as 1/2, right? It's like you're dividing this number, happens to be 200, by 2. You would get 100. It's like you're asking for half of 200, which is 100. Okay, those are some common percentages, and you won't always... Okay, so those were some common percentages, but you're not always going to get common percentages when you're trying to find the percent of a quantity. Here are a few more examples. You have 42% of 18. Okay, really all you have to do is take the decimal version of the percent, and again that of is going to mean multiply, and then multiply the quantity. And this will allow you to use the calculators for it, because this is not our target. This is just a 2-digit number times a 2-digit number. And if you did that, you would get 7.56. So when we would ask ourselves what is 42% of 18, it's 7.56. Same deal with the second one, 12% of 24. You take that percentage, you turn it into a decimal 0.12. Becomes multiply, and the quantity stays the same. Here we would get 2.88. Okay, the last one, 50% of 180, well, that's one of the common percentages that we did, but we could also do it this method. 0.50, it's the same as 0.5, because you can just drop that 0, it's no big deal. And you would get 90, so 90 is 50% of 180. Okay, what's really happening here, if you want to see the math of it all, is it's like we're multiplying, well, it's like 50 out of 100 times 180. And you multiply 50 times 180, you're going to get 900. But then when you divide that by 100, you get your 90. That's sort of the mechanics behind it, but the little trick behind it is just turn it into a decimal and then multiply it, and then you would get your percent of the quantity. That's it for that, and then the rest of it you can continue to work on your project. You'll see questions like this on your project.